Hey, hello, how you doing? My name is Tehja and today is a great video. I'm very excited. It's one of those grab a drink and grab a snack type videos. Today I will be making and bedazzling a Scream inspired or Scream corset belt. If y'all watched the video yesterday, y'all saw that I made a corset belt and it's for this project. I figured this will be a great project for spooky season. Just to celebrate because, I'm a horror fan. I grew up a horror fan. So I figured like this would be a cute project to do in honor of spooky season and in honor of Halloween. I will be talking about, well, I was supposed to talk about all the movies while Rhinestone. That's why it's so damn long. But I ended up just talking about like one movie because I talk too much. So if you want me to do another video when I talk about my thoughts about each of the movies in the Scream franchise, then let me know in the comments down below. And also, of course, subscribe and turn on your post notifications so you know where the next videos are going to post. But this video is the Scream corset making and bedazzling video. Oh, and as always, all of the materials will be linked down below. I use a lot of rhinestones. So they'll all be linked down below. If you'd like to see and chill with me making the Scream corset belt and also want, some little chit chat about the first movie of the Scream movie, then please keep on watching until the end of the video. So this is the corset belt that I made, which I made in the previous video, which I'll link down below as well. But this is what it looks like bare without anything on it. But of course, in my fashion, we are going to spice it up and rhinestone the absolute crap out of it. So I'm first going to take my fabric transfer papers and print my images onto it. And here I'm showing you the difference between printing on the transfer paper compared to regular paper and how it kind of like the black just ends up not doing what needs to be done. Like, I don't know why the black is so blown out. It's actually really annoying. That sucks, but I'm just going to make it do what it do and probably figure out another transfer paper or another transfer medium that will be more accurate to the color. Moving on, I'm going to cut out my Scream printout as well, first in a square because that's easier to do because you don't have to deal with as much paper, and then I'm going to cut out pretty much the body or the shape of Ghostface. So that's what it looks like once I cut the whole image out, and so that's the vibe I'm pretty much going for. So what I'm doing now, I'm taking an old bed sheet that I think is mostly cotton, if not 100% cotton, and I'm going to be using that to be the base for my transfer paper. So I'm first going to iron the little piece of fabric I need in order to transfer the Ghostface image onto it. First, iron it as flat as possible just to make sure there's no wrinkles, because you don't want wrinkles on your transfer and that's going to look all wrinkly and crinkly and it's not going to be cute and it's going to be harder to rhinestone. So after I do that, then I'm going to place the Ghostface image on top, face down, because that's how the image is transferred, and then I'm going to iron it down for about 2 minutes without any steam. No steam, because I guess the steam will like make the colors bleed or whatever. So just pure heat, no steam, for about 2 minutes, just making sure it's ironed down as flat as possible, adding as much pressure as I can, just to make sure that all of the ink gets transferred onto this fabric. So after that, I just cut out the piece of fabric that it's transferred on just to make it easier to manage. And so I let it cool for another 2 minutes and then I peel off the paper for the image and it should be transferred. If not, if something starts to lift up, you can just iron that section again, put the paper down and iron that section again, and it should stick onto it, and just apply as much pressure as you can. So that's what the transfer looks like. Again, the blacks aren't as black as I want them to be, but it really doesn't matter because I'm going to be rhinestoning on top of it. So I'm going to first put a coat of Mod Podge. I actually do 3 coats, but really just 2 is fine. But I'm adding a coat of Mod Podge for 2 different reasons. Reason number 1, which was my original reason, but I found out something else afterwards, is that just to seal in the ink so it doesn't bleed. And I use the gloss version because I think gloss would just look better than the matte one. And then number 2 is that if you actually extend past the transfer image and a little bit onto the piece of fabric, then it actually seals the edges and the fabric doesn't fray as much. So that's what it looks like after 3 coats. I diluted, I think, the second coat because it was adding like streak marks to it. I didn't like it. Now I'm cutting out the image so that, you're just left with the body and there's no excess fabric. So now after cutting the image out, I'm placing it onto the corset belt, and I'm just kind of cutting it to fit the corset belt because there's a point at the bottom, and the scream image is a little square, and I decided to at least cut off the corners diagonally so it fits the little point diagonal situation at the bottom. But you can also just raise the image up if you wanted to do that as well, and that would have worked out fine. And it doesn't have to be exact because, again, covering it with rhinestones. So just do as well, you should do as best as you can if you're recreating this, but I just kind of just winged it and called it a day. To glue the image onto the corset belt, I'm using the Fabric Fusion glue from Eileen's. I'm so about the glue. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. But what I'm doing is that I'm going to place the glue all around the edges, but not like on the edge, but like right next to the edge, very close to it, just all around the image. And then I'm going to use a brush to kind of spread it out so it doesn't spill out once you press the image onto the corset belt. So yeah, here I'm taking a brush and I'm just kind of putting the glue on the edge and brushing it onto the edge so it's not excess glue spilling out from underneath. And so I do that real quick first. And then I put some more glue in the middle of the image, kind of just, and I should have brushed that around too because you can see the glue from through the transfer, but I do that and then I place the glue onto the corset belt as gentle as possible. So after I put all the glue onto it, I'm going to gently place the image onto the corset belt as close to where I want it to be as possible. And then once I get it in position, then I'm going to press down the image so that it sticks onto the corset belt. Now I do have to say it's a little hard to do because the corset belt is a little curvy and then it has the boning, so there's different levels of the corset belt, so it's a little hard to do that, but I try as best as I can. And then I'm going to put a piece of wax paper on top of it and then a heavy book on top of the wax paper just so it really glues down to the corset belt. It was a good idea. I think I really needed more weight onto it so that it really stuck to the corset. So 2 hours later, I let it dry for 2 hours. And then of course, this is what it looks like. It looks a little more crinkly because I had the weight on it, and it really pressed down into the corset belt. So now what I'm doing, because I want the Scream logo on the corset belt, is that I printed the Scream logo out on sticker paper, like the shipping label paper that I usually use for my stencils. You've seen that if you watch my Bratz tracksuit bedazzling video. But yeah, so what I did is that I printed on shipping label paper or sticker paper, and then now I'm going to use the X-Acto knife and just cut out the letters to create my stencil to then place on the corset belt. I recommend if you're doing the stencil that you also keep the letters that you cut out because you might need them as a reference, or like for letters like an A or R that has a little space in the middle of them. You might need that as well as a reference or to cut out to use as a stencil as well. So I just want to let y'all know that I like to just keep them until I'm fully done rhinestoning or doing whatever I need to do with the stencil. So this is what the stencil looks like once I'm done cutting everything out. And so what I'm going to do is peel the back of the stencil off so that it's just the sticky side, the sticky layer, and I'm placing it right where I want it to go, which is right in the middle of the Scream or Ghostface image. All right, so in order to rhinestone the logo, what I'm using is Tehja's Wonderland's 2mm resin rhinestones in the color Icy, which is like the clear color, the traditional, clear color, and also the Deco Crafts SS3 size clear rhinestones that are, I think they're glass as well. And of course, in order to glue them, I am using my E6000 Fabifuse glue. It's my favorite out of all the glues. I just love it. I love the way it works, because when I use Gem Tack, which that used to be my OG favorite, but I used it for my birthday look, which I'll post that video eventually. But like, from smelling the fume, not the fumes, but smelling the glue for long periods of time, like, I started to get sick, and I've never experienced that with E6000 Fabifuse. So I was like, nah, nope, that's not for me. It's gonna only be in very quick instances, but not like long rhinestoning instances. So that's why I prefer E6000 even more now. So I'm just gonna rhinestone every letter. I'm just gonna outline it first, and then I'll fill it in eventually when I feel like it. When I'm rhinestoning, it's just a vibe. It's just a vibe. It's just a feeling. I just go with the flow. I go with what's easiest for me, and just call it a day. So I'm using mostly the 2mm Tehja's Wonderlands rhinestones first, because that usually works out the most with the shape and the size of the letters. And then once I fill them in, I'm going to use the Deco Craft SS3 clear rhinestones. And I'm sorry for my head popping up in the way. I'm still trying to figure out all these angles with my new filming setup. So I'm sorry if y'all can see my head. But anyway, so as I'm rhinestoning that, as always with most of my, well, not most, I only did this once another time. But for my rhinestoning videos, what I plan to do when they're like relatively long is to kind of talk while you watch me rhinestone, because watching someone rhinestone for me is very calming. And then if you have like a topic to talk about while seeing someone rhinestone, it's like really cool. So I want to do that. So as I sewed the corset belt and rhinestoned, I watched almost every Scream movie. I just didn't watch the 2021 version, which I think is just called Scream. It's not even called Scream 5. But I watched all the other ones. It took 4 Scream movies to sew and rhinestone this. But I also like didn't consecutively like watch the Scream movies. I'm pretty sure that it would have taken about all 5 Scream movies and a couple of episodes from the Scream TV show in order for me to finish this whole thing. So yeah, I was fully doused in the Scream. So I'm just gonna give you my opinions about all the Scream movies. Oh shit, we're already done. So we're done with rhinestoning the logo, the Scream logo, with the outline of it, and then I'll go back and fill it in. But right now, what I'd like to do with stencils when I'm rhinestoning is to wait about like 30 minutes for everything to dry, but dry enough that it can stay once you peel the stencil off, but still not too long that the stencil is like stuck onto the garment. You know what I mean? So just enough that I can peel it off without too many issues. You might have to replace some rhinestones once you do it, but it's just always the better option for me. So I'll continue my talk about the Scream movies after we move on to the next step. So now I'm taking my Tehja's Wonderlands 3mm Risen Rhinestones in the color Morgan, which is my black jelly color, and I'm going to use that to outline the majority, if not, yeah, I think the whole Ghostface image. But anyway, so I'm gonna get into my dissertation about all of the Scream movies, but I'm gonna first start with my general points as I'm rhinestoning this outline. It was actually my first time watching the Scream movies, because I grew up with like the costume and stuff like that, and I grew up with like the references and like, you know, watching Scary Movie, like the parody. You know, like you got the references of the Scream movies, but I never really like saw front to back the Scream movies. So first, spoiler alert, of course, I'm going to be talking about the movies, and there will be lots of spoilers. I mean, the first movie is like almost 20 years old, or I think over 20 years old. So like if you haven't watched the first movie, like you can pause this video and come back, or you can I might have like a just music version that you can just chill and watch me rhinestone and do it that way too. I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, there will be spoilers as I talk about the movie, and also I'm still working on the other video that I did, but I will also put post a article, or not article, but blog post about the trigger warnings in each movie that I can at least see, or I can recollect on my Patreon. It'll be for free. It'll be open to the public, so that you can go and look if that's a concern of yours. Oh, real quick. Wow. Okay. I changed rhinestones quick. So I'm using this rhinestone carousel, that like I got in like a free order or something like that. I'm just using the smallest black rhinestones to create the little fingers on the knife, just to add some kind of like texture difference, so you know that it's like a hand holding it. And then I'm going back to my Tehja's Wonderland 3mm resin rhinestones in Morgan. So anyway, this is my overall thoughts about the whole franchise, is that I see why it's a franchise and why they made so much, like the costumes, the 5 movies, the TV show, like, because it's a really good franchise. Like, it holds up to Freddy Krueger or Nightmare on Elm Street. It holds up to Friday the 13th. It holds up to Halloween. You know, it holds up to all those movies. It's actually like, it's a classic. And I see why it's a classic, because it's not only a slasher movie, but it's also a murder mystery. So you're like trying to figure out who is the killer this movie, because it changes every movie. And so you're trying to figure that out, as well as, you know, also seeing like, okay, who's going to be the next victim, blah, 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 blah. And so it actually works out really, really well. I mean, the whole Ghostface thing is so crazy to like dress up in a costume and you are trying to get attacked by somebody who's wearing a ghost face and like a cloak or like a dress. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's horrible. And yeah, and also like with every movie, like the reason for why the person did it is always like batshit crazy. And you almost like are waiting for the explanation of not only who is the killer in this movie, but also why. And you also have to take in consideration that every killer is batshit crazy. Because even sometimes the reasons why don't be hidden, but like you're like, but yeah, they're batshit crazy anyway, so any reason could work. Now I'm switching rhinestones to the Tehja's Wonderland 2mm resin rhinestones in the color Icy to start to fill up the mask as well real quick. And then I think I switched to another rhinestone. Like I said, it's a vibe. It is a feeling. I also used them to do the handle of the knife. And then I think I used the Tehja's Wonderland Crystal SS16 rhinestone in Icy as well. So now I'm moving on to rhinestoning the knife, and I'm using both Tehja's Wonderland Crystal SS12 rhinestones in Betty. So I'm switching rhinestones real quick, y'all. So bear with me, because I'm working on the tiny sections first. So just bear with me, okay? And then I'm also using Tehja's Wonderland SS4, I believe it's 4, rhinestones in Vampira to do the knife of the image. Is I'm using the DecoCraft 3mm rhinestones in Black Diamond as well to use as a shadow for the mask, which I'm happy I did, because I was taking a chance and it actually looks really, really good, and you know, a little bit more dimensional than just like a flat surface. So it really looks like a shadow. So to fill out the mask, again, I'm using the Tehja's Wonderland 2mm resin rhinestones in Icy and Tehja's Wonderland SS, I think 16 crystal rhinestones in Icy as well, just to fill up the rest of the mask. And what I do like about the sequels, all of them, and even like I watched a little bit of the beginning of the 5th movie, which was released last year. Like they all are pretty good. Like, of course, the first one is always the best one. Eva was in this instance, but you're not really wasting your time watching any of the other movies. Like, that was one of the few franchises that you can literally watch the movies and not be tired or sad that you're like, oh, it sucked, it can never stand a chance towards, to the first one, blah. No, like, you'll really enjoy the movie. And what's also good about the Scream movies is that you don't have to unnecessarily prolong the life of the antagonist, because it's the killer's wearing a mask, so it can literally be anybody. And then there's a voice changer that each of the killer uses, so it can literally be anybody, which I think adds a refreshing quality to the sequels. And also, I think for the movie is that the ensemble cast is like really, really strong. Like, all the characters work well together, and you kind of root for everybody like individually. And ensemble cast type of shows and movies always work, so I think that's also like a strength for like the whole franchise. You're waiting for these characters and how they're going to react in each movie. So now moving on to using the DecoCraft Risen Rhinestones in 3mm in the color translucent, just to kind of act like shadow or like light hitting the hand, because it needed some break in black and like dimension. It needs some dimensionality, so it's not just a whole black blob. And I like the translucent rhinestones because you can see underneath them. I like translucent colors because you can see the color underneath them. And now finally, since I got the little tiny pieces of the image done, I'm moving on to my Tehja's Wonderland of 3mm Risen Rhinestones in Morgan to finish the body of the corset. So we have a little bit, or not corset, finish the body of the image. So I have a little time to actually speak now, which is good. Oh, I was talking about, I love the aspect of the Scream movies, of the commentary that they have about horror movies in general. Like the rules of a sequel and what should happen in a sequel, and the rules of what should happen in a trilogy, and like almost like the killer's almost following those rules because it is a sequel. The movie is a sequel, or the movie is the trilogy, blah 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 blah. And so it's really cool to see that, as well as almost like talking about the over sexualization of women in horror as well. That happens a lot and it's really frustrating, because I just watched Demon Knight, which is a really good movie if you like campy horror. It stars Jada Pinkett Smith, which she's actually in the second Scream movie for a hot minute, but it was a really good movie. But like, you saw like bare women unnecessary, like it added really nothing to the movie, and that was like the only downfall for that movie for me. So that happens a lot in horror, and also the running joke and and the running stigma of like Black people not really lasting in a lot of, especially the old school scary movies and stuff like that. And also just like the aspect of paying homage to like the horror that came before in the scary movies. Like it's really cool. It gives it a bigger worldview than this instance happening in this town to these very select few people. And speaking of the cast, I really like that the cast and the victims don't have to be really dumb and make really bad decisions in order for the plot to move along, you know what I mean, and like the fear to occur. Like I really enjoy that they are critical thinkers, and maybe you may not agree with what they do in the situation, but they're not stupid and dumb and make the wrong decisions on purpose in order to move the plot along. And also, like, honestly, the horror of the movie is not just like the killer itself, but also the fact that you get like a call in the middle of nowhere, and I think the first 3 movies, like landlines were still a thing, so you don't have caller ID. So like you get a call out of nowhere with this guy with this weird voice asking you questions and taking your time up on the phone to then like freak you out and be like, I see you, blah 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 blah, and like threaten to be like, oh, but I got your boyfriend hostage and blah 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 blah. Like that's crazy. That's really crazy, and it can literally happen to anybody. Like that's fucking crazy. So just the whole Scream movie. So that's the overall general thoughts I have about the Scream movie. And I thought I would be able to break down what I like about each movie, but we're already almost like halfway through the video. So I'll just go over as many movies as I can, and I can have my whole breakdown also on my Patreon as well if you guys are interested, so comment down below. But we're moving on to Scream 1, the first, well, it's really just Scream, but Scream movie, the first one. Boom. So it is the best movie out of the franchise. It's naturally, but also like I said before, like the sequels, you're not going to waste your time with them. Like you're still going to enjoy the movie. But it is the best one because the shock value of that opening scene, that Scream, the first one, the original one, I think 1996. It was released. That first one, the opening scene of that one is batshit crazy. And I think it's one of the best opening scenes in horror in a very long time. Because usually horror, it starts slow and then it builds up. But with Scream, like, they let you know what the deal is. And then you're guessing who the killer is, who's doing this, why they're doing this, and who's next. You know, so it's a really good, like, formula that they have, because that opening scene was crazy. Like, it really opened up with a bang. I also think Sidney Prescott, who is the main character, she is one of the best final girls out there. You know, she's up there with Laurie Strode for me, because first of all, she lasts all the movies. Like, she's alive all the movies. She don't gotta be alive all the movies, but she does. And she does it through mostly her own volition. And what I like is that she's not really the hero until I think movie 3 was when she finally like killed the killer herself. But, you know, she ends up surviving the other movies. And I like that she's not always painted the hero. And poor girl, like, everything happens to her. Like, all the killers are out to get her, and I feel so bad. And it really started because of her mother and her behavior and her decisions that she made. And Sydney's just getting literally like the repercussions and the consequences of what her mother did. And that backstory is fucking crazy. It's crazy. That's crazy. Like, imagine being persecuted and being hunted and killed or trying to be murdered because of what your mom did. Like, that's not cool. Like, she literally didn't do anything to these people. Like, with every killer that I saw, like I said, I haven't seen the last movie, the 2021 version, but every killer, like, literally, like, she didn't do anything. And it's just crazy. It's really crazy. And then also, like, the fact that, like, by movie 4, like, she's like, listen, I understand how you feel, because in movie 4, her cousin is in it, and she lives in Winsboro, blah, 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 blah. So, like Sydney's telling her how to deal with all the drama and all the press and all the pressure and fear of dealing with a Ghostface killer. Like, that's crazy. So I think she will be one of the top final girls, in my opinion. And that because, like, shit just happens to her, and she just has to survive it every single movie. And I also think the ensemble cast in this movie was the best, because of course you have Sydney, who's like the innocent girl, who has a boyfriend that, you know, she's like so about, you know, but she's literally just minding her business, and also grieving her mother, because her mother died the year before. Horrible death. But like, grieving her mother, she's now with a single dad, and, you know, just trying to like literally move on with life. Then she has her best friend, who like kind of like, you know, she plays the best friend trope, right? Then the best friend got a boyfriend, but the boyfriend's stupid. And then and Sydney's boyfriend is a little creepy. Just a little creepy. Yeah, he does end up being the killer at the end of the movie, but I'll let you know why later. But yeah, so he a little, you know. And then Sydney has a friend. It's like a part of the friend group that is like, he works at the video store, and he's like a horror buff. So he knows all the rules of the original movie, the sequels, and the trilogies, and all that stuff. And he's like obsessed with horror movies. He can like reference horror movies, no problem. You know, he's supposed to be like the eccentric friend, right? Then you got Officer Dewey, who is a police officer, who is the best friend's older brother, that, you know, he's kind of like new on the force, and he's trying to prove himself, right? And then you got Miss Gail Weathers. She is the it girl, in my opinion. I love me some Gail Weathers. Like, she's mad annoying, but I also love her, because she is the overzealous reporter that is trying to get her big break. She already wrote a book about what happened to Sydney's mom, and like, she already wrote a book and got like some accolades from that, and also said that who Sydney accused of for the murder, who's also locked up, who ends up being her boyfriend's father. What? Ends up being her boyfriend's father. Was it her father? Was it his father? No, sorry. Scratch that. No. It's a lot. The drama is real. The fact that I'm confused, the drama is real. No, it's not his father. It's not her boyfriend's father. But it's another guy. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, so she's like, yeah, you falsely accused this man of doing this murder because you just spotted him at the crime scene, but like he didn't do it, and like calling Sydney out. And so like this woman's already been terrorizing Sydney. And then it continues throughout the movie because she's a reporter and trying to get her big break and trying to get like her story that sets it off for her career. So that's like the ensemble cast for the most part, and it's really good, and the dynamics really play into the horror and how people react to these murders and these tragedies. So I am moving on to filling in the letters because again, it's a flow, it's a vibe. So like I said earlier, that Sydney's boyfriend was one of the killers, but there was two killers, which was what? Like that was crazy. That set me off because that was batshit crazy. But like, okay, her boyfriend ended up getting arrested because he was there while she was like getting attacked by Ghostface, and she was like, I don't believe your ass. So she had him locked up too. But like but the fact that like, okay, and then what happened was someone else got murdered when he was locked up for, I guess, like the 24 hours that you're allowed to be locked up without, a reason. And so like she believed him again, but I was like, nah, because the motherfucker, he was whispering, right? So like when guys like whisper, like, and they don't have to, like they're not like naturally a soft spoken person, like that's creepy to me. Oh, this is what it looks like once I filled in all that stuff. It looks good, right? It looks great. I love it. Anyway, so that's not done because I'm obviously very, very extra. So I have to do very, very extra things. So I'm going to put like blood drips on the top of the corset belt to really like set it off, to really, be like Ghostface-esque. You know what I mean? So what I'm going to do first is take my tailor's chalk and just draw a little blood drips on the corset belt. Just freehand it. I mean, like it's really like just think of something dripping from the edge of something and then just draw it. It's usually a lot of loops and little swivels. But I just do that real quick just to get a gauge of what I want the blood drips to look like, to then rhinestone it. So I'm doing the same thing on the other side so it's symmetrical, which came out really, really nice. So now I'm using a mix of red rhinestones. So I'm using Tehja's Wonderland's 3mm and 2mm and 4mm resin rhinestones in the color Valentina, which is the red one. And then I'm using Tehja's Wonderland's SS, I think 12 rhinestones, crystal rhinestones in the color Betty. And then a couple of other colors, I think Deco Crafts resin rhinestones and 2mm in dark cyan. Oh, and then a couple of the Vampira colors from Tehja's Wonderland and all that stuff. So I just mix it together and just use a mix of colors. I'll put all the color names down below, link down below, so y'all can check it out. So I'm first going to outline the lines that I just drew with some glue, and then I'm just going to line it with the mix of red colors that I use. I wanted to use a dynamic kind of different hues of red. I don't know. I think it's just creatively would just look better than it just being one color and one size. And it really paid off really nice. It adds more dimension than it just being like one dimensional, especially since the image itself is pretty flat. I needed a little more dimension so it can like, Yeah, so anyway, I kind of figured that Sydney's boyfriend was one of the killers because he had creep vibes. He had like, I have a checkered past that no one knows about because my records are sealed. It was giving very much that. And I don't know what she saw in him, like at all. I didn't like him, like at all. And so, yeah, I told you that, yeah, that she trusted him because a murder happened when he was locked up, but I still didn't believe him. Because, it like cell phones was out, right? So like it just could have been anybody. And like you never know. You never know. So I already didn't trust him. But the fact that it was two killers and it ended up being Sydney's best friend's boyfriend too. Crazy. And then that's when you find out that they use a voice changer and blah, 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 blah. But that was crazy. And like the reason why it was so dumb, it wasn't dumb. But it's just like full blown betrayal and full blown like he needs a Netflix series right now. Like it was just like, how could you think that way? Because the reason for the boyfriend, his name is Billy. The reason for him was that because Sydney's mom was having an affair with his dad, right? And that caused his mom to like walk out on the both of them. And like he had like a grudge ever since. And so he actually killed Sydney's mom. Or like they both did. But they killed Sydney's mom the year prior. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And so they wanted to do on the anniversary of her death, kill Sydney and her dad for the same spiteful ass shit. Like, come on. Come on. Like, that's so crazy to me. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. And I think the boyfriend, the best friend's boyfriend, I don't know his name either, but I think he just wanted to do some crazy ass shit and want to be, did he want to be famous for it? Did he want something? I don't know what the boyfriend, the Sydney's boyfriend's reason was, but that shit was crazy too. And the fact that he was down with it is psycho. And also, like, he killed his girlfriend for what? And that's the only problem I have with the Scream movies, because like I enjoy, seeing the different people, but it's just like they never give a reason why the other people had to get it before Sydney. You know what I mean? And then another thing that was crazy is that they killed the dad. Oh, no. They kidnapped the dad, or abducted the dad. That's more appropriate. But they abducted the dad when he was supposed to go on a business trip. And so he was missing like the whole investigation before like the final throwdown happened. And so I was like, that's weird that dad's like all of a sudden missing, like, ooh. And then especially like the murders like just happened. So like that's weird. So I was a little suspicious of him too, because you just never know. But yeah, no, they abducted him so that they could kill Sydney and kill him and blame the murders on him on the anniversary of Sydney's mom's death. Like, you can't make this shit up. Well, you did. It was made up, but it's crazy. Like, who does that? So I was shocked. So like the ending was the best ending because it was the best reason, because it's psycho. And also that like it was the most shocking to me because I kind of figured the boyfriend, but I didn't think he had a partner, and the partner was her best friend's boyfriend. And like what? And that they killed her mom prior? Come on. Like, that shit is crazy to me. So I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I was watching it while I was sewing the corset belt together. And so it took about that long to do it, kind of. I think it took 2 movies to fully sew the corset belt. But yeah, so I would love to watch it again if, just sit down and watch it. I might watch it again for Halloween or something like that, because that is crazy. That's crazy. Oh, also, I have many points. So I pretty much talked about the first movie this whole video. And we got 4 more movies to go. So like I said, I'll probably just put like my thoughts on Patreon. Or I could do a different rhinestoning video and I can do like all of the movies. Because like I think I have the most points for this movie than the other movies. But anyway, so let me know down below if y'all want me to talk about the other movies as well. So the Cotton character that Sydney falsely accused of, he was mad creepy too. Like, because I also thought maybe like he like hired somebody for like revenge of Sydney falsely accusing him, because he was so creepy to me. Like, it was like, yeah, he was falsely accused and was locked up for, meanwhile he was about to get the electric chair because of the murder that he was falsely accused of. But he really seemed like he was gonna do some shit anyway. Like, I did not believe his ass. He did save her, I think, in movie 2, but like he just, I don't know, I never liked him. And I think the one who plays Cotton, his name is literally Cotton, I think is Ray Donovan, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you kind of like recognize, like, Drew Barrymore obviously was in the first one as the best friend, and you start to recognize people in the movie, which is pretty cool too. It's kind of like Where's Waldo, but like actress and actor edition. So it was just kind of crazy. I also liked kind of like the side story of the cop Dewey, Officer Dewey. He'll eventually be like sheriff or deputy Dewey or whatever, but he ends up being a cop like the whole series. But I like that him and Gale Weathers like work together to like try to figure out like what the hell is going on, and they got some too, because I think Gale got stabbed I think Dewey got stabbed. Everybody gets some. And that's what I also like, is like there's nobody leaves the movie untouched in any movie. Like everybody gets some, they just end up surviving it. And that also makes it less corny to me, as well as like also Sydney not always being the hero. She's a survivor, but she's also not completely helpless. Like, you know, that if she really had to throw down, she could throw down. But like, you know, it's just like she, like, you know, it's like you're freaking out in the instance of something like that happening. So I really liked her. I think she's just great for the role. Like I said, she's one of my favorite final girls as well. She's up there with Laurie Strode for me. And yeah, so I really, really liked the first movie. The second movie was also good. Like, I feel like if you want to watch any of the movies, but don't want to watch like the whole franchise, the first and second movie are the best. They're the best. First movie is obviously top, but second movie like is not that far off. Third, fourth movie is alright. Like I said, you're not gonna regret seeing it. But they're just like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, it happened, you know. And like I said, like also like all of the murders, which sounds so crazy, but I'm not a true crime person. I am a fantasy crime person. But like all the murders are always done well. The suspense is pretty great. I mean, the genius of like you get a phone call and like the murder's like calling you and like taunting you and shit like that. You also got to answer like horror trivia questions. Like, that shit is crazy. So they're always done well in every movie. It's just the reveal of the killer and the reason why. Because even in the third and fourth movie, oh, actually all three of them. No, it was the second and fourth movie that there was two killers in the second movie. That they wanted. Well, the guy wanted to do it for fame, and the woman wanted to do it for revenge. I'm not gonna tell you who it is, so y'all could watch it. And then in the third movie, it was a guy who was also doing it for revenge. And like literally again is like, well, the second movie, it was technically from Sydney's actions, but like she was defending herself. Third movie, all this shit happened before Sydney was born. And like he was taking it out on her. So there was one killer in the third movie. Fourth movie was two killers. That the fourth movie was the least favorite to me, because the killers didn't make that much sense, at least for the reasoning. And there was a partner duo this time, and also like the one of the partners is just like was weird. It just like it didn't make no sense to me, because you didn't see those characteristics, y'all. Characteristics with either of them of for what they wanted it to for, which was also for fame. Because it's just like they didn't seem like they wanted to be famous type of people, in my opinion, until they revealed that they were the killers and wanted to do it all for fame and glory. It was just weird. And like I said, the second one, oh yeah, so like to have the reason be fame in two different movies was a little weird for me. It was a little weird for me. It was a little redundant. Especially like, okay, I'll spill the beans on that one. Because like in the fourth one, and you can just like mute it if you don't want no spoilers. It was her cousin, which was the most surprising out of all of them for me. But it was just like, yeah, she wanted to do it for fame, and she was jealous of Sydney. It's like, that don't make no sense, because she seemed like a sweet old girl all this time, and you didn't even see like her like wanting that life, you know. Like it was just like, I wish she'd be like, oh yeah, I want to be a movie star, or oh yeah, there's like something, you know, I want to be somebody, you know, something that would allude to her wanting to like, you know, be in those circles and willing to do anything for it. And same thing with the guy too, because his best friend was the one that was doing the filming and shit like that, and he was always like the sidekick to his best friend. So like, you know, you didn't even see him being like into, okay, yeah, I want to build a social media following, or oh yeah, I want to be like a reporter or a movie maker or whatever, and be in those circles. So that was a little weird. So yeah, those are my little quick thoughts of the different killers and the reasons why, because that was like the biggest issue for the sequels for me, was just the killers and the reasons why. But like I said, the second one was the second best. And then literally in the order, well actually, like literally in the order of the sequel, I think that's what the movies are the best. But I don't like the reason for the third movie, because it was literally not Sydney's fault, and barely like not even Mom Duke's fault. So I didn't like that either. So I think the fourth movie for the reason is better, because they're not really blaming, they are blaming Sydney though. It's a lot. It's just a lot. You see it for yourself if you haven't seen it already. Oh, I'm going back to the Tehja's Wonderland Risen Rhinestones in 2mm and 3mm, just to add some, I like to call them spatial rhinestones to kind of fill up the space, very sparsely, just to add, again, some more dimension, because, you know, I like to add me some sparkles, okay? So I'm just doing that real quick. I love this technique because it just adds a nice little shine and, like, unexpected sparkle, especially when it's monochrome, right? Monochromatic rhinestones that match the color of the base fabric. So it's kind of like a little surprise. So anyway, after that, then literally the corset belt is done. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I have talked enough. So I'm gonna leave you to it. I'm going to let y'all continue to watch the rhinestoning if there's any left, and then I'll see you once the video is over. So this is what the corset belt looks like. It looks freaking good. It turned out better than I expected. And yeah, it's hitting for me. So even if you want to do something similar like this, like make a corset belt and, you know, put the character on it and just wear like a dress or a little outfit underneath it, like that can be a Halloween costume and call it a day. Okay. So anyway, I'll move on to the final thoughts, and all that stuff. Right? I don't know. I'm so tired of talking. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Also, if you made it this far, let me know what snack you had or what drink or beverage you had while watching this video. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Hopefully I'll see y'all tomorrow. You know, I'm working on these corset belts. Tomorrow will be a jigsaw corset belt, so that should be fun. More black and red, but it's gonna be cute. And you know, I grew up with Saw, all the Saw movies, so it's very nostalgic for me. So anyway, as always, lovelies, please love yourself, and I will see you next video.